Welcome to Beading with Machi Wapakwenyu. I'm your host, Lydia Sturby.
So today we're going to be looking at making these Métis sash earrings. So in the kit you would have received a needle, a bobbin of thread, 2 hooks, 2 wire guards, some wax, and a little baggie with all the beads you'll need. As well as the pattern. We're going to start by threading our needle. I usually say to use from your finger to your opposite shoulder. That's a good amount of string to be using at one time. But I don't knot the end, I just hold it because we're going to weave that back up. So you're going to start with 2 blue beads because we're just doing the first single row of blue. And you're going to go back through those 2 rows and we'll go around. And we're going to force them to kind of sit side by side here. Just like that. And then we're going to add another bead and continue our row. So this is called a ladder stitch, and you're kind of weaving figure 8s through it. One at a time. Okay, so now that I have got my 11 blue beads across, it's okay if they're not perfectly straight, they'll straighten out as we do the next row. So now we are going to come in with a red to start the second row. You're going to put your needle under the string between the last 2 beads you put onto your ladder stitch. So it's under that little loop, and then come back up through the red bead. So that's just going to keep this little bead sitting straight on top when you pull it. You're just going to continue following the pattern back and forth until you get to the very top, which has 2 red beads. Okay, so now that I'm done my top piece, I'm going to add my wire guard. And it's simple that you just put your needle through one side of the wire guard, line it up to the second bead up top, go down the wire guard and through the second top bead. Now when you're pulling your string through, you're going to want to make sure it sits in the very top of the wire guard and doesn't come in behind or in front. Now go back through the first bead and the wire guard a second time just to make it nice and secure. So all those brick stitches you can see, because it kind of looks like bricks on a building, that's how they sit. We're going to use that a little bit to our advantage here when we're going to now that we've gone through the wire guide twice, we're going to come through and weave a circle in a set of 4 of these before we cut our string, and that's going to help us make sure it's not going to come apart on us. So you want to make sure you kind of go through, so I'm going down 2 at an angle. I'm going to come up these 2 red ones, and then we're going to come back down this green red one, and so we've kind of gone full circle through those 4. And if you pull that nice and tight, you shouldn't be able to see your string too much. And then you can either burn it with, if you've got a zapper, or cut it with scissors. And so we're going to do the same thing with this little tail. We're going to bring it back up and do a circle around in here. So now we're going to get another long piece of thread. Now this one, because I really prefer not to have to add thread in a fringe, sometimes I'll make it extra long, but you just have to be very careful so that you don't get it all knotted. When you're pulling it through. And again, I'm not going to put a knot at the end because I'm going to wind it through some of the beads here to make sure that it's not going to come apart on me. So I'm going to come up to this red and this green, and I'm going to pull them through. Oh, pulled it all the way through. The red and the green. Okay, now I'm going to hold this and come down these 2 red ones on the outside here. We'll come back up the red and green. And down the 2 reds. And then finally the blue at the end here. that will allow me to now cut this, because that's nice and tight there. And now we're going to start with our fringes. So with the fringe, you're going to add the whole row, and then when we get to the bottom, I'll show you how you come back up so it won't come back off. So I have two options now. I can either skip one and go all the way back up, or to get this 3-point end, I'm actually going to add on 3 red beads and leave those over here and go up all 25 of the reds. You're going to have to do it in chunks depending on how long your needle is. You might have to help the little 3 at the end get the shape that you want. And go all the way back through that very first blue row of our ladder stitch. And that's how we attach our fringe. So sometimes I'll hold that center bead of the trio to help it. Now you're going to come back down the second blue bead. You're going to want to pull that tight so you don't see that string quite so much. Right now this is kind of stiff. I find if you roll it kind of like a snake, it'll be more dangly. You're just going to continue until you get to the very last row. Okay, now that I've got all my fringes done, I'm going to make sure my tension on each is how I want it, and if not, I will kind of roll them like snakes in Play-Doh. Otherwise, I'm going to come make my way up a couple of these side beads, and I'm going to weave a circle inside to secure my string before I cut it. Okay, so I've gone up a couple, I'm coming down two. I'm going to go back up these two. I'm going to cut it here. Now my final step is to take a pair of pliers with the round nose would be best. I'm going to open the hook, put it on the wire guard. Make sure your hook is closed really well. Sometimes I even slide my pinchers in there. I'm going to close the edges of the wire guard around the string so keep it stronger. And that's it. You now have a beautiful pair of Métis fringe earrings. Thanks for joining me today.